Troy 2004 has been one of the most influential movies in my life. I mean, it is what got me into the swords and sandals genre, just like Gladiator and Conan the Barbarian. Now, with the Odyssey coming to a theater soon, I feel it's time for us to join the Greeks and set sail to Troy. Troy is an adaptation of Homer's poem, the Iliad, and it is not the only adaptation. There have been many more attempts in the past, like the Helen of Troy, or the Trojan Woman, the Trojan Horse, and the awful BBC series Troy: A Fall of a City. We don't talk about that. Now, as far as I've seen in Hollywood, literary adaptations into movies do much better financially as well as critically as compared to its counterpart, the video game adaptations. And Troy is no different. It was a commercial success of its time. Many of them like the movie even till today. They have it in their collections. They hold it very dear to their hearts. That being said, is Troy a perfect adaptation of the Iliad? I would say no. There is among all the adaptations so far, nothing is a perfect adaptation of the source material because it is very ancient. We don't even have all of it, and it has a lot of magical and supernatural elements like gods, monsters, the intervention at different stages. So this does not suit the realistic and the grounded framework that the filmmakers intended for Troy. So as far as a grounded take is concerned, they did a pretty fine job, and their aim was to make the characters interesting and relatable and someone we can root for. And even there, I think they did a pretty spectacular job. This movie is stacked with cast. I mean, it's one of those movies that is known from its cast alone. It is famous because of its cast. I mean, I just remember speaking to many people. They always quote the cast first before actually talking about the actual story and the premise of the film. We have Brian Cox, we have Peter O'Toole, we have Eric Bana, Brad Pitt, Rose Byrne, Orlando Bloom. I mean, it is you can't get more star-studded than this. And they were cast perfectly. That is another best part. It's not just that the actors were talented; they were cast perfectly in their roles. For instance, can you imagine anyone else in this cast being swapped for Sean Bean as Odysseus? I wouldn't think so. Can you imagine anyone else playing Achilles instead of Brad Pitt? I would not think so. Everyone are cast perfectly in their roles. They brought their essence to a role and it fit perfectly. It just worked. So that is another real charm of this film. Brad Pitt as Achilles. I would say this deserves a separate mention in the review because he's one of the most pivotal characters, not only in the literary work, but also in this movie. I mean, he's one of the main attractions, one of the big hitters. Brad Pitt is perfectly cast as Achilles. It is just one of the most perfect casting and to go down in history because he just embodied the character to perfection. It is not just the physical appearance, it's not just the blonde hair, it's not just the muscles, it's not just the costume. No, it's also the various other aspects like his movements during battle, his footwork, the way he moves, and shows that he's the best at what he does. And also the emotional scenes, where, for example, his conversation with Bryces when she was in his tent, and also his emotional conversation with Priya, and also his confrontation with Hector. Every single one of these scenes are highly emotional scenes, and emotions are the ones that come on top. And Brad Pitt did a very good job at this, and made a very compelling character out of Achilles. And I must say, he also brought that calm and casual and arrogant demeanor to Achilles, which Brad Pitt is generally known for. He's known for the casual arrogance, which he brings about to every single one of his characters. So Achilles is no exception. And another thing I really loved about the character, I'm not sure if many of you has noticed, but he's shown as superhuman without being too obvious or without being too overt about it. For instance, when he throws that spear, Hector says one thing that he has never seen anyone throw a spear that good and that far. And also when he runs and he kills his victims with one single blow, one single swipe of his sword. And also during the fight between Hector and Achilles, if you've noticed, Hector gets noticeably tired and gassed out, but Achilles doesn't. He keeps moving. So in these scenes, which from a distance it looks like an ordinary battle scene. I mean, a guy holding a sword, running, going on his horse, or probably charging at someone. That's fine. But if you notice these subtle details, it shows Achilles is more superior to an ordinary man. They show that he is not exactly human. At the same time, it's not a superhero movie. It is a grounded take. So I really like the subtle way in which they show that he's a superhuman as compared to other soldiers. Now, the fight between Hector and Achilles. I mean, this is one of the most iconic moments. I mean, it is as iconic as Superman versus Batman or something like that, or Joker versus Batman. I mean, this is a fight that goes down in history. And of course, it was very important for the filmmakers to get it right, and boy, they did. There's nothing about this scene that screams like over the top, or nothing. There's no real fancy elements here. It is just two guys wearing their gear, using the equipments they got, the swords, the shields, and going at it. And the best part of the scene is there's no CGI, there's no mocap, and certainly no green screen. Although there might be some green screen in the background where they had to add a few elements in the environment. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's the max they did. Other than that, it's just pure choreography. They're just going at it. They were actually fighting. They were actually sweating. They were actually showing the work done. And I think there's a beauty to that, guys. Sometimes the old school techniques of filmmaking really lends well. It doesn't matter when the film is shot. It may be shot even 10 years from now, 20 years from now. There are certain old school techniques and style that will never go out of fashion. I think they should do more of this because it brings a realistic, gritty charm to it. You know, if you use too much of the animation CGI, it will just ruin it. And I thank God they didn't do that for this. They actually used hard work and stunt choreography for these scenes, and I think they really nailed it. Both the actors and also not to mention the camera work. The camera work was done in such a way that you could see their movements, you could see them fighting, you could make out the agony in their faces. You know, I really and they actually showed the entire fight. You know, it panned perfectly. It caught the entire scenery perfectly. I could see the entire arena and the way they fight. So, so it's not just the actors and the choreography, but also the camera work. So all these lent well and finally created a fight scene that's worth remembering. And another real sad, tragic thing about this fight scene revealed is the difference in character between Achilles and Hector. Now, if Hector was standing over Achilles, kneeling and about to die, Hector would have forgiven him. That is the best part. He would have forgiven him, being the knowing his nature, his character. However, Achilles didn't. So this shows how different both of them are. Good fighters, Achilles being slightly better, but it shows how different they are when it comes to their mentality and their personality. You know, what one would have done, other wouldn't have. You know, it's really tragic and sad if you think about this. And if you notice something, I've seen one thing in this movie that I've not seen in any other movie. Every single character is symbolic. Don't they feel different? I mean, they're not just characters in a movie. It's not just an ordinary movie. Every one of these characters represents a particular human flaw and a personality trait that is not very desirable. And I really like that. For instance, King Agamemnon represents power and greed. Achilles represents pride, ego, and glory. Hector, on the other hand, represents bravery as well as loyalty and patriotism. Paris represents cowardice. Every single one of these characters are having a meaning. They resonate something about the human condition, and I really love that. I don't see that in many of the other movies of the similar genre. I mean, sure, there are action scenes, there are great set pieces. I mean, there are interesting characters with great one-liners. However, in this case, they're not. It's not just that, but the characters really have a meaning. They resonate something. Another highlight of this movie, the cinematography. The cinematography is just spectacular, guys. I mean, when they are setting sail to Troy, the Aegean Sea, the costume design, every single costume, every single attire the actors wear is perfect for the time. I mean, it suits the era. The ships, the battle scenes, the beach, and as well as the Greek landscapes. Every single one of these have been captured to perfection, and I really like it. And I noticed one more thing in this, guys. Greek ruins in ancient Greece. Really? I mean, how old is that ruins? I mean, we're already in ancient Greece and we are seeing ruins of a building. Like, I was really intrigued to see this. Like, how old is that building? Just if you guys know, just if you make a good guess, let me know in the comments below. Now, all that being said, still feel this movie was lacking in certain places. Firstly, the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. Sure, we know about their bromance. We know they have a really strong bond, and one would die for the other. But I still felt it was shallow. It was just grazed through. I just felt they should have given more meat here. Like they should have gone in depth into the relationship and see where it went. Because that way, if anything happened to them, it would have had more impact. Their journey would have felt more compelling. So I just felt it was too shallow and they didn't explore it more. And I wish they had. And also, Odysseus' screen time was very low in this. I mean, sure, he was present in certain scenes. He was present sporadically towards the entire film. But I just wished he had more screen time. However, that shouldn't matter because in the next film, the Odyssey, he's going to have a very significant role. It's his journey after all. And on top of that, even in this movie, he played a very instrumental role. He does some very crucial things. One, he's the one who suggested the idea of a Trojan horse. That is something. And also, he's the one who was instrumental in bringing Achilles to the war. And on top of that, he's the only one that I noticed who had the balls and the nerve to talk to King Agamemnon to his face in his own tent, in his own camp, and tell the truth and call it what it is. And that was very impressive. Overall, it's a great movie. It's something that will stand the test of time and will continue to be a cult classic and is worthy of adding to your collection. Sure, it has its certain inadequacies. It is not a perfect take on the source material. Then again, what is? So, but it is still a damn good take on the source material overall. And I don't know about you guys. For me, this is an unofficial prequel to the Odyssey. So I would highly recommend you watch this movie in its entirety before getting into the Odyssey in the theaters, because that way you'll have a more complete experience. I mean, you will feel like you've seen the entire journey. Take it as a marathon, a tiny marathon. So what do you guys think? Do let me know in the comments below. And of course, do consider liking, sharing, and subscribing with the bell button. It would mean a lot to me. And let's embrace cinema together. And until my next video, bye for now.